gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 24th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt Shodell, another horrifying loss at Hard Rock Stadium this past weekend. The Miami Hurricanes just doesn't look like they're going to be able to truly get their act together this season. And that there's going to have to be a level of acceptance amongst the fan base that the progress of 2022 is going to be that the University of Miami is financially committed to football. Does not look like we are going to see the byproducts of that on the field this season.
Well, there should be no acceptance of the fan base of the results we're seeing. Miami's a more talented team on paper, in recruiting, coaching staff wise, supposedly, than every team they've lost to, other than one. And
that's true.
And it's unacceptable. You know, I'm not going to pass the blame and just say, oh, well, you know, Mario's first year and he inherited these players. These players are supposed to be better. Miami coaches have not figured out why these players don't seem to want to play the game hard, consistently, play the game like they're having fun, which is what football is supposed to be for a normal young man at that age. Players look miserable. I'm a pessimist by nature. I never thought it'd be this bad. I was shell-shocked watching that Duke game. Even when they're losing in the first half, I'm like, oh, they're still going to win. Duke's terrible. They take the lead on the first 2 drives of the third quarter. I'm like, yeah, you know, this is going to be an easy win. And the team just folds, man. And, you know, you hear bits and pieces coming from different people, you know, inside the program. Some of them like to put it even on Twitter, you know. Keyshawn Smith, some other puts it right out there, saying what we'd already heard, which is apparently, you know, there's some sort of disconnect, I guess, with the offensive players and the offensive coordinator. It doesn't take a tweet to see that. You can see it on the field.
I'll tell you what the disconnect is. You want to know what the disconnect is, Matt? Josh Gaddis is sitting there saying these guys and all their mental errors and all the problems that we're having are ruining my coaching career.
And guess what? That's happened in the past, right? You heard with Garin Justice. I heard several players told me after the fact that Garin Justice would come in the offensive line meeting room after a loss or after a bad performance by the offensive line and start yelling at the players, "You're ruining my career. You know, you're costing me money." You can't say that to a college student athlete. You can't. If you're Josh Gaddis, he understands what it means to him and his career and wanting to be a head coach. But you can't put that on the players. It's your fault, Josh Gaddis, because you haven't coached them correctly. You haven't made them mentally prepared. Like, you can't just say, oh, you guys aren't good enough, when he thought they were, and when he's putting them in the position they are because he thought they could do X, Y, and Z. If the offensive line's not good enough, you create misdirection. You create other plays. You get the ball to your playmakers, which they have a few on offense, right, in different ways. You don't put them in difficult situations. You don't run the ball up the middle every single third down, short yardage, fourth down, short yardage, whether it's with Jakuri or with whoever else.
Behind a bad offensive line that you know is bad.
Right. Like look, I don't want to throw people under the bus. I'm not going to throw people under the bus. No. It's not working the way it is. Okay. Whether, you know, some people are speculating, oh, this is Mario Cristobal really calling the plays. You know, I don't believe that. No, you know, you know, do they have meetings before the games to discuss with Mario Cristobal and Josh Gaddis? Of course, you know, and does Mario Cristobal weigh in on what he wants to do to attack a team? Of course. But on game day, it's Josh Gaddis calling the plays, you know, and it hasn't been good. They're averaging, I think, 22 points a game when you take out the first stupid game against Bethune-Cookman, which shouldn't even count in the statistics anyway. The offense is not right. The offense is not right. At the end of the day, it's Josh Gaddis's to fix. And for him, you know, to perhaps, as Keyshawn Smith's mother apparently says, to come into the room ranting and raving about how, you know, they're the worst players he's ever seen and this and that, like, you know, it's not very constructive. No. You know, it doesn't really help anybody. Now, if you're a Miami fan and you're going into that room, you're probably yelling like that, but that's not what a coach should do. And I think part of the problem for this team and the coaching staff is the coaching staff is used to, in Josh Gaddis's case, Michigan, in Mario Cristobal's case, Oregon, they're used to a different type of player than what they've inherited. And people always say South Florida athletes are different. They are different. But what we're seeing right now with these Miami players that are, many of them, South Florida athletes, they don't respond well off a loss to getting yelled at, to being told they're terrible, to having, they listen to outside noise because, look, that's what young people do, but they seem to take it to heart, the outside noise. They're not ignoring it like they probably should sometimes. And on top of that, we know Mario Cristobal's go, go, go. The only answer is hard work. That's his mantra. That's what he's always done. And when you push a team past its limit, what we're seeing on the field is what happens. Mario, in my opinion, has pushed this team past its limit. He's pushed them too hard. And you can say as a fan, they need to be pushed that hard. But this is what happens. It's clear what we're seeing on the field is a team that has been pushed too hard on the practice field. Like they're exhausted mentally.
They're not being pushed too hard mentally. I'll tell you that, because how do you explain that? All these mental busts that we saw Saturday. I mean,
there's only one explanation for it. They're exhausted mentally. What do you mean that's not that's the answer? Is there okay, Gary? Let's put it this way. In human terms, for me, right? When Gary gives me too many stories like he's doing this week, I'm stressed out. I don't sleep that much, and there are mistakes. I'll write. For instance, I was looking at a story I wrote this morning, and I wrote the wrong player's name. I think I put in DJ Scaife twice in some offensive line thing I'm doing, right? And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm just like writing too much stuff in a row. I took a break. I said, I'm going to do the laundry, because I do the laundry in my house, because that's how important I am in my family structure. And I took a 20-minute break. But football players can't take that 20-minute break. It's nonstop in the Mario Cristobal system. And that's okay when you have the players who respond to that. These players are not responding to that. It's obvious. This is not on the players. This is not on the coaches. This is on both. This is on everything. Players aren't responding correctly to the coaches. Coaches aren't recognizing the players are mentally and physically exhausted, which to us from the outside, it seems very obvious. And I don't think Mario Cristobal understands that he doesn't understand if there even is a way to take your foot off the gas. It's like telling Donald Trump to stop sending out tweets. Like he doesn't know how to not keep his foot on the gas, because that's what he's always done. That's what's always worked to rebuild a program. And it will work eventually, but it will work when he has the players that respond to that. And that's who he's recruiting. And he'll get rid of the guys who don't respond, which appears to be most of the team. And then that's how you get to the playoff team. Like, these are the painful steps to get there. But I think he could have perhaps recognized some of the shortcomings that I've been talking about with this program and gotten them ready to beat a Duke, and gotten them ready to beat a Middle Tennessee, and gotten this to be a bowl game team, which right now it does not appear to be a bowl game team. Like, they have to win. They have to go 3-2. Am I wrong? 3-2 the rest of the way. I'm not sure they can do that. I think 2-3 right now is more likely than 3-2, unfortunately. Like, that's just reality. And if Mario wants to go 3-2, he's going to have to.
I think they just got to take one game at a time, man. I get what you're saying, but listen, they haven't played one game this year that they couldn't have won. They're just giving them. They're giving them all away. It's something different every single week. It's unbelievable. It's like all of a sudden Virginia Tech, you have 17 penalties. All right, we're really going to work on discipline this week. We're going to get that fixed. They didn't have a lot of penalties the other day against Duke. Now all of a sudden you're mental busting after you. They were a decent pass blocking team the last several games. Now all of a sudden they're a bad pass blocking team. The quarterbacks are getting assaulted. 3 strip sacks that led to touchdowns against Duke. Okay, Tyler Van Dyke gets knocked out of the game. It's unfathomable what is going on with this football team. And I didn't think until late in the fourth quarter that it was a lack of effort yesterday. I did think some guys quit late, but I think that some of the warts that this team has, Matt, started to show up a little bit at times. The defense, we know they are not a good tackling defense. We know the linebackers are a problem. They were exposed big time yesterday. I thought Keontra Smith was horrendous. I thought Corey Flagg was horrendous.
Corey Flagg's worst game by far.
They were both horrendous. They pretty much the two of those guys led to so many things that Duke was doing on offense, from the quarterback draws to some of the big plays they were hitting, where Keontra just kept missing tackles and taking bad angles, and Corey Flagg kept going to the wrong place, and it was just brutal. And you can't win football games with players playing like that, because other teams are going to find ways to exploit it, and Duke did, and they did it with. They did not have a lot of talent. They manufactured offense with a strong offensive line, executing quarterback draws, and a crafty quarterback that can run the football. And then they threw a wrinkle in at the perfect time and caught Miami off guard on a shuffle pass that went for a touchdown. And they didn't have to go very far for most of their scores. And then when the game was on the line, they go 18 plays, Matt. 18 plays, like 80, 90 yards. I can't remember the exact yardage, but I do remember they had a 15-yard penalty in the red zone that set them back, and they came right back down again. So they almost scored twice on the same drive. 18 plays. Miami had them in fourth down. They allowed a 20-yard pass over the middle. It's just bad football. And I think the part of the issue that I see is the coaches are not adjusting very well to the level of football team that this is. For example, defensively, I don't think Kevin Steele is dialing up enough pressure. I'm not saying be Manny Diaz and blitz every single down and try to cover up for your warts that way. But my God, man, when it's third down, you got to go after the quarterback every single time. You've got some dudes on the defensive line, and you should be able to dial up some things with one additional blitzer, and scheme it up and get to the quarterback. I saw it one time the entire game. And offensively, I think Mario is being too aggressive for this football team, Matt. This is 2 games in a row at home, North Carolina and Duke, where he went for it on fourth down at midfield and risked field position, and it blew up in his face. And they scored touchdowns against Miami's defense both times on short fields. And, this is when the games are close. And, I feel for Mario. I get it. He's following the analytics. He's trying to be aggressive. He recognizes he needs to manufacture points and do things. But it's not working with this team because, the minute you give a short field, the defense is going to break down. I don't care how well they've been playing or whatever. And your offensive line that you keep running behind to get these short yardage situations. We saw Rhett Lashley do it last year, Matt. They're not going to pick up the yardage 90% of the time. You are not converting 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 2. We've seen it for 2 years now with the same personnel on the offensive line. It's not happening. So I think to sum it all up, Matt, they're just getting caught everywhere, and every game it's something different.
Their best player right now is Lou Headley, and Mario Cristobal benched him essentially, because he decided he was going to go for a lot of fourth downs or whatever it was. I think they were 1 for 3 on fourth downs. And the one you mentioned from, I think the other team was 44, you're down by, I think, 3 points, at that point, 4 points. You pin them back. It's a no-brainer. Because when you say the analytics, if Mario Cristobal is looking at the analytics, those are based on an average team on offense, what they do and what they should do. Okay, with an average offensive line, an average receivers, and whatever else. Like, that's the idea of analytics. What Marcus Cristobal is not factoring in is he has a below-average offensive line, perhaps below-average play calling in those situations compared to some of the analytics that show, hey, 19 out of 30 times, or whatever it is, I'm making up numbers, right. On 4th and 1, these teams convert, and it makes sense because out of those, that's 75% chance you'll make it, and out of that 75%, 60% of the time they scored 3 to 7 points. Whatever it is, those analytics, that's what they say, go for the situation. What he's not recognizing is his team shouldn't use analytics because Miami's analytics right now are negative analytics. They don't work for this program, for this team, because the offensive line's not going to convert 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. That other teams will convert 75% of the times if it's an average offensive line, an average running back, and an average offensive coordinator. They're not converting those. 33% conversions. Analytics would tell you Don't do that anymore. The analytics would say, if you're the Miami Hurricanes, stop going for 4th and shorts and punt it with the best punter in the country, or one of them. I mean, that's what the analytics would say if they're just looking at Miami. But all that the Miami Hurricanes get is a sheet of paper and a computer program that tell them what to do, and they follow it blindly. And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It has not worked out in the last 2 games for Miami. They've had bad 4th downs and not gotten them.
That is unquestionably my opinion. And we are in total agreement on this issue. But then, if you want to argue with us, and this is just you and I, so there's nobody here on camera with us to argue with us. You could say, "Oh yeah, well, how about the time they gave up an 18-play drive that went the length of the field? What's to say they wouldn't do the same thing again?"
Sure.
Fair, okay, fair. Okay, when you have a bad team, anything goes, anything can happen.
But when you have a bad defense, if you don't get that 4th down, it's a shorter field for a bad defense. I'd rather make them go 90 yards than 54 yards. That's
no doubt about it.
Crazy,
especially in a close game like that at home,
and especially against Duke. That's the other thing analytics don't tell you is who your opponent is. Duke's offense is terrible. Duke's offense had 320 yards in this game. They won because of Miami's turnover.
Miami gave them the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're talking analytics. You have to look at your opponent, you have to look at your own team, and create your own analytics knowing the average formula of success. If the analytics say 52% of the time this succeeds, and you're Miami, do the punt, do the field goal. Don't go for the 4th and 2. But Mario is every 4th and 3 or less in the other team's territory, he's going for it, man. He's just going for it.
And on the goal line, too, he's not taking a field goal.
No. And he thinks that players respond to that, and they do if it works. But when it doesn't work, it has the opposite effect. You lose all your momentum. Any enthusiasm just goes out the window.
You're up 7-0 in that game. You're dominating the game, and in the first quarter,
no brainer to go up 10-0 at that point.
In the first quarter,
any NFL team kicks a field goal there. Period.
I agree. It's looking like you are going to dominate this football game at that point. Miami looked very good in the first quarter. And that took the wind right out of the sail, man. Multiple things happened there, Matt. You decide to go and you can kick a field goal. Okay, fine. That's one thing. Fine. The analytics would say go for it. Okay, so I wouldn't make that big of an argument about 4th and 1. Okay, but if you're going to go for it, you sure as hell better have a better play in your back pocket than a run up the middle behind a bad offensive line with a running back that was in training camp with Alabama Birmingham this year and was brought
only carry of the game
and was brought to campus as a stopgap. What'd you say?
His only carry of the game. That was it. He got one shot. It's because he's the bigger back. They said, "Hey, who's the bigger back? Let's use him." I love a play. Which team ran it? There was a play I saw where they line up 2 big backs behind the quarterback, and it's a quarterback sneak, and the 2 big backs run up as fast as they can and just shove the quarterback into the line. And that's very difficult to stop. Who was doing that? There's an NFL team that was doing that, and it's just impossible to stop. And I'd love for Josh Gaddis to see that film and try to use that formation. That was great.
Lucius Stanley is a bigger back, and his lack of speed doesn't matter at that point. And he gave it all he had. He tried so hard to.
Oh, who was the Eagles? Eagles with Jalen Hurts. That's what they do all the time. You can look it up. The videos.
Jalen Hurts just runs.
It's a brilliant play. Nobody can stop it. Other teams line up like a million people just in the middle, knowing that's what's coming, and you just can't stop it. Jalen Hurts finds a little gap behind the line. The 2 backs push him forward. How do you stop a guy getting 1 yard like that?
Well, if you have an O-line that gets pushed, you're not going to stop that.
Yeah.
But Miami doesn't have an O-line that gets pushed, so anything.
But the two running backs shoving Jalen Hurts helps.
But you got to have a better play than that, in my opinion. I feel hard. I feel bad because it's like we're watching all these things that are contributing to losing games that they should be winning. As bad as things are at Miami this year, I'm sorry. They played very competitively at Texas A&M, very competitively against North Carolina, very competitively against Duke, and let's not even talk about Middle Tennessee, how they should have shown up for that game.
They played very competitively. Okay.
They did. I mean, they gave it away. But really in both in the North Carolina game, they gave it away in the secondary. The Middle Tennessee State game, they gave it away in the secondary. The Texas A&M game, they gave away with a muff punt and 2 missed field goals, which turned the football game. And then they turned it away with strip sacks on Saturday and 8 turnovers. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, it's like, obviously this is not a good enough football team to win every game. This was a good enough football team to win 9 games this year, and they've blown it. Okay, collectively, players and coaches. You're going to shake your head, I know, and I hear you. I hear you. I know you don't.
I don't think you do, because you actually.
No, I hear you, bro. I hear you. I hear you. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say you can't do that. I know you can't. You can't.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say you still believe they should win 9 games. That's what I was going to say.
I believe they could have been a 9-win team this year if they just had their crap together, and they didn't. They have not. You know, Tyreek Stevenson, who we love, he's part of our team. You know, we consider him a teammate. For one moment, he lost his senses, and he tried to field that punt in College Station in a tight game. He muffed it. They scored a cheap touchdown. If you just think about all the cheap touchdowns that this team has given up this year, it is. I mean, I know I've never seen anything like it. I think that even in this state, they could have been a 9-win team this year. Yes, I do, and they're not going to be, obviously. So I get it. You can't really play the what if game, but you know, people say, can they beat Florida State, for example? Yeah, I mean, they can. You know, Florida State game is not going to be any different than all these other games. Florida State's sitting there; they've lost 3 in a row too. But you sure as hell aren't going to beat them if you're muffing punts, giving up 80-yard passes, committing 8 turnovers, allowing strip sacks of your quarterback. You know, no, you're not winning if you're doing any of those things. So listen, it's been a bizarre season to this point. Somehow they always find a way to get crazy, Matt. And unfortunately, it hasn't been on the good side crazy since 2017. It was good crazy when they were winning games at the last second. But listen, it's a lot for all you guys out there watching to reconcile. We get it. And we feel the pain that you feel. But I think that to keep some semblance of sanity, you have to look at this as a extended rebuild that's taking place, or retooling that's taking place. Step 1 of that was unquestionably getting the university to commit financially to funding the football program. And they have done that. They've hired Mario. They've given Mario the proper budgets, and they are getting ready to build what is going to be at least probably $150 million football headquarters, which is very essential because that's what everybody else in the country is getting and building. That's step 1. And, you know, if that's all that was accomplished in this calendar year, 2022, it's going to have to be good enough, Matt.
Look, the future still remains bright. I don't know what you mean they should have 9 wins if they got their stuff together. If any team had its stuff together, they're going to have a good team. This team has nothing that's
way above and beyond. What other team have you seen give up 6 deep balls for touchdowns like that?
Right. That's called a bad team. I mean, a guy gets beat for a touchdown. He's not that good. Like, that's the whole point of football, right? Football players make plays.
I don't look at it that way.
You're just assuming the coverage is great and there's no penalties and there's no fumbles. Like, what are you talking about?
Kinchins is a bad football player.
This team is never
bad. I think he made a few critical mistakes. I don't think DJ Ivey is horrendous this year. He's been okay, but they put him in a bad situation.
This you know what you're saying is really interesting, because I think that's actually what the coaches believe, and I think that's part of their problem. Is this?
He has played decently for the most part, other than that one deep ball against Middle Tennessee.
I'm not talking about DJ Ivey. I'm talking about the perception.
Oh, Cam Kinchins.
I'm not talking about Cam Kinchins.
Oh, you're not talking about any individual.
I'm talking about the perception that these individuals on this team are good enough to win 9 games, and they're not. Like, they keep putting players in position where they say, oh, we're really good, so we'll just do this. The running game is not good. The offensive line is not good. The secondary is not good. The linebackers are not good. Defensive line's good enough. They have one decent tight end right now. I'd argue they have one decent receiver, but they, like you, think except for a few things here and there, we'd be a 9-win team. Except for all the penalties, except for all the busts on defense, except for the linebackers being
I'm
out of
just
position.
watching the games. I can't believe
Except for
what I'm
not making any
seeing.
plays. Like we should be a 9-win team. Like, no, this team's not good. Recognize your team for what it is. Every fan has eyes, Gary. You're looking at it through a lens that I am not looking through. My lens is this is a bad team. The coaches don't recognize it's a bad team. The coaches don't seem to understand. They can yell at these guys all they want about how bad they're playing. It doesn't make it a good team. And I just believe my eyes. One game it's penalties. One game it's turnovers. One game it's bust on defense. 2 games they can't run the ball. 3 games they can't pass the ball. And you're saying, oh, it's all just stuff. It's just stuff. If they had their stuff together. That's every aspect of football. It's called playing football correctly. They are not playing football correctly. So I don't understand how all of a sudden you say they should be a 9-win team if not for this or that. Like that's literally the definition of insanity.
I'm looking at the guys that are screwing up. Okay. I don't believe Cam Kinchens is a bad football player, like I just said. He just made a couple bad decisions.
So across the board, individually, you think this is a great team? That's
no,
what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely not. But I don't think
What are you saying? Why are they a 9-win team?
I don't think they're playing great teams. I haven't seen one
terrible. They're losing to bad teams.
They haven't played one good team yet.
No, except for Texas A&M's decent. What do you think? Huh?
They're barely decent. They're not great.
Oh, well, you were just saying they should win 9 games and they have all these great individual players. I don't know. You seem to think they're a good team. I don't. They will be, but they're not. I'm just basing it on what I see this year. Even Matt Shodell, the pessimist of pessimists, who thought they'd win 8 or 9 games, is shocked. I am beyond surprised at how poorly this team has played, at how poorly it appears to us they've been coached, which I know they've been coached well, okay, because it's a great coaching staff, but it appears to me on game day that they are a very, very poorly coached team. It's shocking to me the lack of preparation and game planning on both sides of the ball that has gone into the Duke game, that has gone into the Middle Tennessee game. I'm flabbergasted. I'll use a word that you used when you were a child in the 1930s, flabbergasted. That's the word that describes me right now. And I am the eternal pessimist because I want to be pleasantly surprised. I am very rarely shocked in the bad direction. I have been shocked in the bad direction, okay? I am hanging out beside Cerberus on my way to Hades right now because I can't believe what I've been seeing. And I agree. And guess what, Gary? I've been saying 2 to 4 years for the turnaround. It's 4 years, man. It's 4 years. You can't fix what they have. I thought they had a really good young nucleus where the culture was going to get fixed. It's not a 2-year fix to me anymore. I want to be able to tell fans it is. It's a 4-year fix. He's got to bring in 3 more classes, get the culture fixed, get everybody coached up correctly, stop these stupid mistakes every game, where one game it's this, like I've been saying, one game it's that. I'm not going to rehash all the stuff I already said. But it's going to be on the longer end of that 2 to 4 year process, unfortunately, based on what we're seeing this year, because I really thought they had a decent young nucleus, and it doesn't look like they do.
It could be. It doesn't have to be. I think NIL, I think the portal
Portal is not. I hope they don't take 12 people out of the portal again.
Oh, they're going to take 12 people out of the portal.
Then there's.
But you're telling me you wouldn't want Messidor again? You wouldn't want Mitchell Agude again?
You know what? Agude's done nothing.
You wouldn't want Colby Young again?
Do you know why I don't want Messidor? Okay.
Why?
And Colby Young? Because if you're taking 12 and those are the only 2 guys, I don't need you missing on 10 guys that are stuck on this roster for 2 or 3 years just to get 2 decent guys who are gone in 2 years anyway. When I need a full roster of young,
they're going to be sent to the portal.
Let me finish for once. When I want a full, all right, forget it.
No, I'm sorry.
When I want a full roster of top recruits that you're coaching up, I don't need juniors coming in from somewhere else for a year or 2 to do well. I need a guy who's going to be here and be an NFL player in 3 to 4 years that's contributing for 2 to 3 years at an extremely high level, okay, and coming along as a class. I don't want 12 guys out of the portal where 2 of them hit. I'm not saying I don't want Colby Young and Akeem Messidor, of course, but just take those 2. Don't take the other 10 guys that are just guys.
So you could bring in as many players as you can to get to the 85 scholarship limit.
Correct, 85 is the limit.
And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but they are going to go into the transfer portal this year. I mean,
I just told you they're at the 85. They have 9 seniors. I already told you that. They have to kick out a lot of these players, which is fine because based on what I've seen, like, you know, I'm over. Like I told you when they took these transfers, the 12 transfers, I said, oh, we're stuck with these guys because, you know, if you cast them back in the portal, the one-time transfer no longer applies. They're basically out on the street, so to speak, trying to find a job because no school's giving them a scholarship, okay? Because they're not giving scholarships to anyone anymore who has to sit out a year, which they would have to. So, you know, that's why I said, you know, you can't do that. But you know what? It's business. It's the Miami Hurricanes. If they have to do it, so be it. And there's probably 7 of these transfers, 6 or 7 of these transfers that they might have to say, sorry, your college career is over. Goodbye. I mean, it's about the Miami Hurricanes. I feel bad for them. They shouldn't have taken them in the first place. It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. But
I don't know if they have a choice. They have to get this program right.
There's going to be plenty of exits to the transfer portal. Let's just see how that shakes out. I think there's going to be a lot. My ballpark figure in my head is 20. I think there's going to be 20 departures off this roster in some way, shape, or form. All right, we got a few more things to talk about today. But first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
We here at LifeWallet take security very seriously. Our data security team is working constantly to make sure that your data is not accessed by anybody who you don't authorize.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
I have a problem with CC, and he's thinking about it, and I'll be talking to CC. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We use leading technology standards like biometric data to make sure that only you have access to your data and your identity is protected. LifeWallet gives you access to your entire medical history and information at the touch of your finger so that it can save you time and can save your life.
Data transfer complete.
The MVP of the 2022 calendar year for the Miami Hurricanes is going to be John Ruiz because when we get to recruiting in December, it is going to become all about NIL promises, in my opinion. And they are going to need him to step up to the plate big time to get the quality of roster injection that they're going to be looking to get. So hats off to LifeWallet. Anyway, so Matt, other things on the website today, in addition, we have tons of coverage from the weekend. If you haven't had a chance to see it all, read it all, we encourage you to do so. We've got opinion columns, the analysis pieces, our typical weekly question and answer thread where we take all your questions and answer them. It's all on the website still this morning. Make sure you check all of that out. But this week at CaneSport.com, we also are going to be taking an eye towards the future. And we are going to be trying to analyze exactly what Miami needs to do and what Miami will do here in the coming weeks. And it's going to come upon us fast. We're almost to November, okay? You got 5 more weeks of the football season, and then you got a 3-week absolute blitz to the early signing day. And there is going to be enormous activity. You're going to see decommitments from other schools and players enticed to come to new schools. And Miami, of course, will look to be in the middle of that, and vice versa. You're going to see players departing for the transfer portal after the regular season. It is going to be absolutely insane in college football. So this week, we will begin taking a look at all that, and we will begin with the quarterback position this morning. So we hope you enjoy that this week. We go up close this morning with basketball transfer Nigel Pack, who's going to be a very key cog, obviously, in the men's basketball team. And we're getting close to the basketball season, so you're going to see us increasing our basketball coverage, and we will be giving you glimpses into pretty much every significant player on the team, let you get to know them a little bit more, hear a little bit about what their roles are going to be on this year's team. we're very excited about men's basketball. Think they're going to have a great season, and it starts with that. And then we have a couple recruiting stories for you. We've got a story on key Miami Hurricanes running back target, Christopher Johnson. He wants to see improvement and will be at the Miami FSU game. And what he sees and what he feels about what he's seeing will go a long way towards determining how seriously he remains about becoming a Miami Hurricane in the month of December. So that's one to keep monitoring, and we give you an update on him today. And we also spoke to Francis Mayagoa, who is the top-rated recruit in this class. He says he was walking out of the stadium, and Azubi Charles, our staffer, was with him. And Matt, his phone is getting pounded, okay, by fans and people at other schools. You're sure you want to go to Miami? Come here, come do this, do that. Francis insisted to Azubi that he remains committed to being part of the solution at Miami.
I talked to a couple other commits also over the weekend. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like everyone's still solid, but like you said, NIL deals start getting thrown around in December, illegally, by the way, but get thrown around in December. I mean, all hell can break loose, not just pro Miami, but anti Miami. So it's going to be a new terrain for sure.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport, i.e. Gary arguing with Matt and trying to knock some sense into him. We thank you so much for starting your day off with us, and we want to know what your opinions are on these issues. Please go to the CaneSport.com message boards and post your thoughts on all these different hot topics right now surrounding Miami football. It's going to be a very interesting time. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, all week and for the remainder of the regular season. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on this show tomorrow, everybody. And a program note, CaneSport Live, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Be there, be square. Want to hear everyone's opinions this week. Have a great day, everybody.